India's biometric identification system, Aadhaar, is the largest of its kind and aims to make the provision of government services more efficient.
The program gives ID cards to hundreds of millions of Indians who previously had none, but its rollout has been highly controversial. I'm Malika Bilal.
I'm Femi Okay. You're in the stream.
Aadhaar is a project managed by the Unique Identification Authority of India, who has a very simple goal: to give to each and every Indian resident its most fundamental right, the right to an acknowledged existence. For that, they are creating the most innovative identification platform based on biometrics. Aadhaar is an inclusion project, so meaning that everybody should be part of it. You cannot let someone on the side. So the main challenge is to make sure that you enroll the biometrics of the people of India everywhere, anywhere in India. This project, in terms of technological challenge, has been compared to the space program when they sent the first man on the moon.
1.15 billion, that's how many people the Indian government says are now enrolled in its biometric identification system, Aadhaar. Now, under the program, people can obtain government services through their fingerprints and eye scans, which match up with a unique 12-digit number that's assigned to them.
But critics note that while Aadhaar was always supposed to be voluntary, the government is trying to make it mandatory for certain services, creating an added barrier to people getting what they need. Most recently, the government moved to make Aadhaar compulsory to file taxes.
Now, concerns have been raised about Aadhaar's digital infrastructure after multiple instances of identities and personal data being leaked. Other technical errors in the system often prevent poor families from receiving welfare benefits. So, is Aadhaar doing more harm than good? To help us talk about this, we're joined from Bangalore by Usha Ramanathan. She's an independent researcher on law and poverty. Saket Modi is a cybersecurity entrepreneur and the CEO of Lucidius. He joins us from Mumbai. And in New Delhi, we have Dejot Ghoshal. He is the roving editor of Quartz India. We were also meant to be joined by a representative from the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, but they cancelled earlier on today. But we still have an excellent lineup. Let me give you an idea of what it's like to sign up from an Aadhaar card. Have a look at this PSA.
कृपया सीधे बैठें और कैमरे की ओर देखें। और अब आपका आइरिस कैप्चर यानी आंखों की पुतलियों का स्कैन लिया जाएगा।
इससे आंखों को कोई नुकसान तो नहीं है?
नहीं, आइरिस स्कैन की प्रक्रिया आंखों के लिए बिल्कुल सुरक्षित है। अब आप अपनी उंगलियों को मशीन पर रखें। पहले बाएं, फिर दाएं, फिर दोनों अंगूठों को। आप अपने बारे में यहाँ दर्ज जानकारी की जांच कर लीजिए। अगर कोई गलती हो तो अभी ठीक करवा लीजिए। ये रहा आपका एक्नॉलेजमेंट।
जी।
आधार नंबर का पत्र आपके दिए हुए पते पर पहुँच जाएगा।
आधार, आम आदमी का अधिकार।
Usha, it looks very simple to sign up for. It's high-tech, it's impressive. It makes India ahead of a lot of the rest of the world in terms of unique identification and biometrics. 1.15 billion Indians have done this. You are not amongst them. Why not?
I think it's because I started understanding this project in 2009 when I was first invited by the UIDAI to attend a meeting where we were to discuss civil liberties and where we were to discuss biometrics and the need for a law or implications of its absence. And what I heard at that first meeting I went to told me that this is not a project that we should take without investigation. I think that obedience is not a good democratic virtue. I think, I don't mean that the opposite of that is not automatically disobedience, but it is definitely interrogation and figuring out for oneself whether a project is really what it claims to be. In these years, I found that this is a project, this is an idea that has been marketed. But when I see what is rolling out on the ground, I see that almost everything that they said would happen, it's the converse that's happening. So if they say it's voluntary, it's mandatory, it's actually mandatory, If they say it's about inclusion, I see a large number of people getting excluded. If it's about reaching services to people, I find people are actually getting cut off from services because this has become one more hurdle, and so on. So I could go on.
This is the crux of what we're talking about here, Usha. Saket, you have an Aadhaar card. Why do you like it?
Femi, I'm sorry, but the network is really bad on my side, and I actually missed most of what Usha said. Can you hear me?
I hear you. So let's, Usha said that she didn't like the Aadhaar card because what it promised is not what it's delivering. But you have one and you like it because why?
No, Femi, I still can't hear you. I think you should go to Devjot and let me reconnect.
All right, we will reconnect. This happens sometimes. We are talking about connectivity and digital and biometrics, so it's interesting that it should be on this program that we have issues with connection. We will come back to you, Saket, once you reconnect. Malika, what are other people saying about this card?
Well, I can answer the question that you asked, Saket, via RK on Twitter. RK says, it's made my life easier. I can now activate new cellular SIM cards in just less than half an hour, whereas it used to take 1 to 2 days. I can even travel by trains without a train ticket if I have the Aadhaar card. So this is one person who is convinced, Devjot, but you just tweeted this right ahead of the show. This was my first story on Aadhaar from back in 2012. The doubts still persist. So 5 years later, you're not convinced, even though some of our community members are.
See, the problem with Aadhaar is that it might, the idea might have been interesting, but it's definitely lacked in terms of how it's been implemented. When I went out reporting in 2012, when the pilot projects were being rolled out, what I found was that in the rural parts of eastern India where these pilots were being conducted, there was an issue with cell phone connectivity. There was an issue with the machines that had been provided. There was an issue with the quality of fingerprints that people were giving for biometric verification. There was an issue with the staff and how well they had been trained. And there was an issue with the entire sort of process, what happens after the verification. I think all these issues still persist. The government claims that it's cleared out a lot of the kinks, but our experience from the ground, and there has been enough reporting in the last 6 months to a year that there are still significant issues with the program. So
Devjot, let's make this personal, because you have been reporting about this on courts. There's a whole series about it. Tell us one story that really illustrates some of the issues that you've just brought up.
See, it's not something that I wrote about, but apparently when the Supreme Court was recently hearing a case about Aadhaar being linked with income tax returns, an Aadhaar device was apparently taken to court and the device malfunctioned. It might have been a one-off instance, but the fact is there are still significant questions about whether these devices are as reliable as the government claims to be, and we don't really have a lot of data to sift through to actually get an answer to that. We're only being forced to believe what the government is telling us, and that's that doesn't really allow us to build an independent opinion.
It's interesting. Let me just show you this tweet here from Narendra Modi from April 2014. This is before he came into office. On Aadhaar, neither the team that I met nor the Prime Minister could answer my questions on the security threat it can pose. There was no vision, only political gimmick. Fast forward to July the 15th of last year. Look what the Prime Minister had to say.
सरकारी मदद या सब्सिडी पर जिस व्यक्ति का अधिकार है, अब उसे ही इसका फायदा मिल रहा है। पैसा सीधा उसी के खाते में जा रहा है। इससे पारदर्शिता तो आई ही है, हजारों करोड़ रुपयों की बचत भी हो रही है।
Usha, what happened? Why did he change his mind?
What we are being told is that when they came into power, they found that it would be a convenient tool. And the way I see it is that there is a certain agenda that the state has which may be different from the agenda of a people. And when you were saying earlier that it's 1.15 billion people who are on this, that they've chosen to be on it, I must just correct that. Many of them were coerced to be on it because they were not given a choice. If they needed to get any kind of service, they needed to be on this database, and that's why they're there. As for Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister had earlier, in fact, his Home Minister had decided that it would not be the UID project, but it would be the National Population Register that would work, and that which would be taken forward. This Mr. Nandan Nilekani met him, and it seems like the kind of imagination that's being built up in this is really about India wanting to be some kind of a digital superpower, and that dream is being sold in the government, including to the Prime Minister. I think we know that there have been 3 reports at least which have been the basic strategic overview documents, and each of them has been by a technology company. I understand the commercial interests of technology companies, but I don't think that makes for good public policy, but it's something that's been sold to the Prime Minister. And I believe he has bought it.
And of course, the idea of a digital superpower is enticing to a lot of people. This is one person on Twitter. He says, through the Aadhaar card, people can transfer or pay money without an ATM just through their thumb impressions, and it may help people who are uneducated. This person goes on to say, more likely, government is also able to connect poorer people through the banking system, which previously they weren't able to be connected. So that's one person's view. There is a little bit of a pushback, though. Someone else says that actually the system is not doing that at all. This is Ritika Khera. She is a prominent economist, and this is what she told the stream.
The problem with the Aadhaar project at the moment is that the government is trying to sell it to us as something that's empowering people, enhancing savings in welfare programs and improving their implementation, when in fact the ground realities are completely the opposite. It's becoming a tool of exclusion when people don't give their Aadhaar numbers. Their names get struck off lists for social security pensions or employment benefits or subsidized rations. And then the government pretends that these were ghosts in the system when in fact these people are alive and are being denied their legal entitlements. So I think this is a very serious problem at the moment.
So Saket, I'm glad you're back with us. I'm going to throw that video comment to you. Ritika says that this has become a tool of exclusion, and it's meaning that people who aren't able to get their cards might be dropped from the roles of getting benefits that they actually need. What do you make of that criticism?
First of all, I'm absolutely in sync with the second part, that, you know, if somebody doesn't be a part of this entire ecosystem, he does fall into a place where he might miss out on certain basic necessities that he might be requiring to stay in a country like India. However, on the other side, let's not forget that you have 95% of the population that is already registered, and I'm talking about a country with 1.2 billion people. So I feel that, unless you voluntarily choose that, no, you don't want to be in the system or you want to be anti the system, I feel if 95% population in a large country is already enrolled, I think we are heading to a time where it will be very, very soon 99%. And, this argument is true, but then when 1% is only going to be outside of the system, I think it's okay to have that.
Usha, is it okay with you?
Certainly not. I mean, 1% of 1.3 billion, I mean, what are we talking about? And in any case, it's not 1%. The recent economic survey had quoted certain figures, where in biometrics, for instance, they say that in Jharkhand, in one of the states, it's 49%, in another, the failure rate is about 25%, in another, it's 30-odd%. These are really large figures, and you had the chief economic advisor to the government in one of the talks that he gave in Washington, saying that actually the failure they had touted, and this is his language, they touted that it would be 0.5%, which would be the failure rate. And the rates are somewhere in the 20s and 30s and 40%. So I think as far as the biometrics is concerned, one of the things that amazes me about this project is that evidence really doesn't seem to matter at all. The second thing that's amazing about this project is that it's all being done in the name of the poor. But when the poor get excluded, there's no one to even be there to watch what is happening, and there's nowhere that they can go. And the third thing that amazes me is that it has been done throughout by, for instance, how did we get this 1.15 billion? We got it through coercion. We got it very deliberately through violating the orders of the Supreme Court, very clearly. It was done through lawlessness. It was done through going before a court and saying that privacy is not a fundamental right of the people. It was done by a court, by the Attorney General telling the court that your bodily integrity is not yours, and what makes you think you have right
Usha,
over your body? The state
allow
has right.
Saket to respond to some of this because he was away for a little while from the program. Saket, go ahead.
I'll answer all the 3 points that Usha is making. The first one, she says evidences don't seem to matter. For me, what evidence is the fact that across the country there are 400 million Aadhaar card accounts which are connected to their bank accounts, and they're being able to make payments just by the touch of their fingerprint. I do understand what she's saying, and I'm in sync with her. At certain places, the rate of failure of transactions or being able to process the Aadhaar information is gone as high as 35 to 40%. However, let's not forget Aadhaar is an open system. What that means is it's an open API where any developer who has, who wants to integrate its service with Aadhaar, he can do so. While doing so, the fingerprint recognition device that he's using, which previously did not have the right standards set. But if you know the last 6 months, especially because we worked on a lot of these fingerprint recognition devices, they were actually those devices where the standards have really gone up. And as you know, technology has been changing. Just think of it like this. If I were to say 5 years back, the accuracy of a GPS mobile phone while calling an Uber was horrifically low. However, 5 years now, and the accuracy of the GPS, because the hardware enhancement have happened to a point where Ubers and Lyfts have become really the lifestyle that we really live in today. So I feel, again, the technological advancement, the pace at which it's going, this 35-40% is an alarming number without a doubt. However, I directly work on such technologies, and I can assure you that's exponentially falling as you move into the future. So that's for evidence is number one.
And Saket, I hear what you're saying, and I see as you're talking, Dave Jot is kind of shaking his head, doesn't agree. So Dave Jot, I'm going to go to you with these comments, because these are also people who, a few of them are nuanced, and they say they think this is a good system, but here's a Facebook comment. This is Nigel who says, unfortunately, the bigger issue is with privacy rights. The data like fingerprint and biometric eye scan could be misused by the government. So that's a future fear. Another person on Twitter, Samin, says, companies and banks are hounding me to link it to all of my accounts. I've been delaying it as much as I can. In my opinion, the Indian government lacks the maturity to understand individual privacy. Who knows what might happen to my information? Not that I believe it's secure anyway. So Saket, I already know what you think about the security and the privacy, but Dave Jot, I'm wondering what you think about people's potential future fears and what might happen to it in a few years.
I'd like to comment on that after Dave Jot, the same point you're making, please.
I just want to respond on one question about data and transparency. See, as a journalist who's been reporting on the UIDAI for some years, it's very, very difficult to get data from the UIDAI, which is the nodal agency that runs the Aadhaar program. It's very difficult to get data from them to actually understand what's happening on the ground. And that makes it very difficult to actually ascertain whether the entire project is actually delivering and where it's not delivering. So that's one. I think the issue concerning privacy, there's just one little point I'd like to make. The law that basically governs the system ensures that there is actually only the UIDAI can actually sue anybody if there is a violation of the Aadhaar Act. It's a strange situation, but basically the agency that runs the program is effectively the only agency that can sue anybody, which basically ensures that if I feel that a private company has actually misused my Aadhaar, I can't take them to court under the Aadhaar Act. And I find that extremely problematic.
Let me share a headline with you. And Usha, have a look at this. The Wire. 130 million Aadhaar numbers were made public, says new report. And this story came out in the beginning of May. What is the information that could be on your unique identification card that could get leaked? What's the danger of that? What information would be available suddenly?
The point is not about, the point is about putting this number on every database. I should first say, going back to the law, like Devjot did, that the law nowhere allows for putting this number in different databases.
So it's not even legal, it's a convenience rather than a legality.
But it's not legal and it's problematic.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is creating a situation where there can be a convergence of various databases and giving a handle to the center to be able to access all this data without any difficulty at all. They have the information technology rules.
Usha, here's what I'm trying to work out. If I have my Aadhaar card, what is the information? If it's leaked, what does somebody suddenly know about me? What do they know?
Yeah, I'm just telling you that because what happens with this is they are affixing this number onto various databases, which databases were then made public.
All right.
Now, when you put it onto these other databases...
I have a different point than Uma, and I can...
but I'll just finish and then maybe you can... Yeah, can I just finish this? Because what happens when you put that number in, you have, for instance, a database which has caste and religion in it. Now, that is made public, and you say in the Aadhaar Act that the UID itself, the number, when you make the number, you should not collect this information because you see the sensitive nature of this information.
Okay, Saket.
But you put it in other databases which have this. See what it does?
Saket, I'm still trying to kind of get my head around then if this information is out there, what people know about me. Saket, go ahead.
A couple of points there. Let me start from the point which you made, Femi. You said that there was somebody who's saying that the government is forcing me to put my Aadhaar number and link it to my bank account. And of course, as what Usha and Devjot both are saying, it's a very, very wrong thing to have the number in a database which might have the caste and the other details of a person. I'm totally in sync with that. However, let's not forget this. Aadhaar card number by itself cannot do anything. Think of it like email addresses and passwords. Now, when you go to transact, or you go to log in, the first thing you require is your email address, which you can share with anybody and everybody. Aadhaar is fundamentally an authentication tool using which not just the government, anybody can verify whether it is really Saket or somebody else is speaking in the place of Saket. In fact, Skype also has this feature now. Now, why I say this is, it is not a central database or a central repository. You spoke about the millions of Aadhaar numbers that got leaked. First of all, let's understand it was only the Aadhaar number and not the associated biometric data. In fact, to be on the record, till date, not a single Aadhaar biometric data has been reported as a hacked instance. Now, when you don't have any biometric data that's outside, it might be 1.15 billion Aadhaar card number also that comes out in the public, and that doesn't matter because that is something like the email addresses. You can just get that. In fact,
it doesn't matter if that information gets out. All right, hold tight for a moment because we're right at the end of this part of our program. We've got a little bit of extra time in our post show. Malika, where do you want to take us?
People are talking about the fact that it might be cutting out corruption. RK says it's really a good way to restrict some illegal ways to accomplish work. You have to have an Aadhaar card. You can't make excuses. But on that note, Rethink Aadhaar, that's the account handle, says the government claims savings through Aadhaar, but official documents show no evidence of how these savings have been calculated. So Devjot, in just about 30 seconds, because we can get the rest of it in our post show, do you think that the government is saving money?
See, the government might be making some savings, but we don't know the extent of it. There's one number that's been thrown out, which is 34,000 crores, which the finance secretary said in March, but there's no breakdown of that. So it's very difficult to actually understand what's going on because just one block number which does not actually have the breakdown of where you've made those savings, how you've made those savings, just putting out a number is not evidence.
All right, so just so everybody knows, who actually has an Aadhaar card? Usha, you do not. Saket?
No.
I do.
Okay. And you like it?
No, I'm not lucky. I'm in the 95% population.
All right.
Usha is missing out, I can say.
All right. And Devjot, you don't have one, I understand.
I didn't want one, but I had to enroll myself to get one after this tax ruling came out.
All right.
So I have to get one to pay my taxes.
Usha will be online with us at stream.aldazero.com. Thanks for watching. See you online. Hello there, welcome back. We are talking about the Aadhaar card. It's a biometric system, a very unique system that India is using right now. Most of the population have one, but there's still a lot of debate. Dave Jott, as somebody who's been following this from its pilot stage, how can there be so much debate when most of the population have this unique biometric system? How is it possible? Is it too late? Has the horse already gone?
To my mind, what's happened, why the debate has fired up recently is because that most middle-class Indians weren't really affected by it. This was a project that was initially rolled out to provide benefit subsidies and services to people in rural India and people at the bottom of the pyramid, particularly after the government tried to make it mandatory for filing tax returns. At least I have noticed that there's been a renewed debate about this project, because I think a lot of middle-class Indians suddenly feel that they're being coerced.
Let me just go to Saket. Saket, we have you on the phone just because of connectivity issues. How do you sum up this debate right now, the debate happening after this card has really been rolled out to almost all of India? Why the debate now?
Yeah, I personally feel that, you see, anything that has a mass scale impact the way an Aadhaar does, and believe me, I mean, we work with, payment providers and technology providers across the globe. And I'm not saying this because I'm an Indian, but I've not seen something like an Aadhaar, both from a technology standpoint and the possibilities, because, I compare Aadhaar as something the way the iOS and the Play Store opened up. And you today have 2.5 million apps on both the Android and the iOS Play Stores, and the world changed forever. That's exactly the kind of potential, because Aadhaar is an open system through APIs. Anybody and everybody, any bank, any aviation company, any telco can use the advantage of that. So I feel it's the first time you're seeing the real impact of what technology brings on the table into the lives of people, which is not just the top 10% of the population, but literally even the bottom 10%, where we see subsidies directly going into the bank accounts of the people who are actually intended for. And of course, there's a lot of things which will come in the future. So I think whenever there's an impact, it's very natural for such debates to happen. I feel these are healthy debates where if we can talk very objectively what are the issues and things can be ironed out, I think we are going to have a phenomenal place to be in. Yeah.
So Usha, I want to read you a comment from someone who's a bit cautiously optimistic. This is Chutney, that's the handle. It is the perfect tool to plug lingering leaks in all subsidy schemes. This said, I would recommend Indian authorities freeze client applications development and focus on fixing the legal framework of it, including data privacy. But make no mistake, getting rid of the system would be the equivalent of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So this person's able to see some of the criticisms, but doesn't want to get rid of the whole system. Where do you fall? And if you were to get rid of the whole system, what would you like in its place?
Actually, I think the latter part of your question is really not something I need to answer now, and it will take much longer. And also to say that we've already been working on getting rid of corruption, not getting rid of it, but certainly dealing with it, and finding ways for people to be able to take control over their own lives. We've done that in the PDS system. We've done that in the PDS being the public distribution system. For food, we've done it in the work system. So I don't think we really need to go there. But this much I must say, that what this discussion, even in this discussion, is clear, and what we've been saying all along, is that this is an experiment. An experiment, as far as I know, cannot be rolled out on a whole population, but that's what this has done. It has taken coercion in place of consent. It's made people choiceless. It's made commerce the central thing. And it's made the government into a control, put it in a position of control over a people. None of this can be justified in saying, it can't be justified by saying that we have an exciting technology and like the PlayStation, we would like to do what we want to do. I think it's pushing it a bit far. I really think it's significant that the Supreme Court in the last order has acknowledged, and I think done a disservice, but it has done in how it responded to it, but it has acknowledged that the right to life and personal liberty, which is a fundamental right in the Constitution, has got jeopardized in the process of this project. And it now has to be decided by a larger bench whether we have those rights or not. This is an extremely serious thing brought only because they wanted this project to be able to push ahead. That, to me, that says a lot to me about what this project is, where right to life and personal liberty are placed in jeopardy.
Usha, Saket, Devjot, thank you so much for bringing your perspectives to our stream program today. We really appreciate it. In the very early hours of the morning as well. Thank you very much indeed. Take care, everybody.